I am the big tank.
On the battlefield of life, nothing's harder than a tank. Yeah, have you ever met a man, hearts full of love, bigger than a tank?
Big tank.
He served in a few wars, he's a veteran that stands for a cause. For the best interviews and news, just keep it glued to the tank.
I am the tank, big
Big
tank.
Tank Talk.
Tank.
Big Tank Talk.
Tank. Hello, friends, and welcome to Big Tank Talk. Today we have a fabulous guest, somebody who's a tremendous advocate for men's mental health, and I've been looking forward to interviewing him. Friends, this is the real Tim Shady. Shady, welcome to Big Tank Talk.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, now every interview starts with the same question, and that is, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be on Clapper.
So a little bit about myself. I'm 49 years old, just recently. Had my birthday in July. I'm a father of technically now 6 girls, um, 3 that I created and 3 that I've been blessed with, um, which is crazy. And yeah, man, I'm just a average regular guy from the middle of Illinois. As far as how I came to be on Clapper, when Vinely or whatever it was called, or sorry, Musically became TikTok. My daughters were, posting videos and stuff, and so I essentially just got on social media to kind of monitor their pages. I started doing music request lives on TT, and then started getting banned, even though all we did was listen to music and eat snacks. That's literally all we were doing, and I would get banned. And so I quickly was just like, this is not cool. And then I found a few conservative guys that I had followed were talking about this new app, Clapper, that was a conservative app, and we could come on here and voice our opinions and whatever, and not be worried about anything. And so I came over. That was August of 2020, and we didn't have lives, we didn't have it was literally just a posting site. There was nothing. And I was
Right.
like, well, this isn't any fun. So, because my whole purpose was just to have fun and a place to hang out, and so I left. I went back to TT, and then of course just the same thing was still happening. I was getting banned, and then Double N Glenn actually had said, hey, they got this thing over there called radios, and it's a lot of fun, and we can go into a room and have as many people as we want. And so I came back in October of 2020, and I've been here ever since. So, um, literally just a couple months shy of day one. So, and I've loved it ever since. So never went.
Welcome into Storm, your beautiful other half. Also,
That's correct.
welcome in by Brielle, that I know is Patty. Good to see you here. I haven't seen you in a while. We need to talk, Patty, about a live interview here on Big Tank Talk with you later on. So I know you are with Storm, and you guys have an impending marriage. Have you been married before? You've got kids, so you've been married before.
That's correct. Yeah, I was married for a total of 20 years, but it was 18 together. Um, yep.
Okay, I won't get into anything more on that.
I mean, I'm willing to talk about it if you want to talk about it, but
Because I do intend to bring up men's mental health, the men's mental health show that you do. I'm just not ready for that just yet. Have you ever served
yeah,
in the military?
I have not. I came that close to joining the Marines, and I backed out at the last second because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and um, it's probably one of my biggest regrets of my life is that I didn't go ahead and just do it. But it is what it is. Can't make up for that now.
I understand that. So those of us that know you fairly well know that you and Storm are a couple. How did you meet?
Storm and I met in a BDSM radio that I was a part of. She popped in, um, and almost immediately I liked her. She was, even though she was super quiet and shy and barely spoke, um, and we just hit it off. And then to come to find out, we had so much in common. We were both trying to save our long-term marriages. We both had three girls. We have a daughter that's named the same that are 8 days apart. Um, so yeah, we were just rowing the same boat literally at the same time, going through the same stuff. And that's kind of how we just became homies. And that's all we were, was just really good friends, um, who were going through the same shit. And we're able to bounce things off of each other. She was trying to find some understanding of trying to relate to her husband, and I was just trying to find some understanding of, is it me, or am I tripping? Like, am I crazy? Because I was always made to feel like I was crazy. And so that's how we connected. And then we just, we were just friends on here, homies through that. She had her people, I had my people, and our people intermingled. So that's how we kind of stayed in the same group with each other.
Now, LD Sweet says she knows you and Storm are friends first. Do you believe that being friends first makes it a stronger relationship?
I didn't think so for the longest time, Tank. I really didn't think that was a factor, but I gotta say it's absolutely a factor. The fact that she kind of knew me on a basis, I knew her. The fact that she kind of knew what my opinions were and kind of how I moved before anything, and vice versa. The fact that we had cried together, just there was none of that. There was just none of that nonsense to get in the way, all that stuff. Like, we had a really good grip on who each other was as a person. Um,
I, I would say, Shady, that I think being friends first, it helps you guys build a deeper understanding of each other. That
Absolutely.
makes this relationship stronger. Uh, Fear the Reaper, Paul asked, who was the first, if you can remember, who was one of the first people you interacted with on Clapper? And are you still friends with that person here on Clapper?
I mean, technically, Double and Glenn and I are still friends. We still have each other's phone numbers. We still chat from. So technically, he's my oldest friend on Clapper because, like I said, he's the reason I came back in the first place. Um, and he's a good dude. I've met him in person. We've hung out. He's a great guy. Uh, but as far as like my group of people, yeah, like there's a long list of people that I've pretty much met since day one that I still rock with, that I still support. They still support me. They're still very active. Nay is a prime example of that. Me and Mama Nay have known each other pretty much since day one. She's an icon on here as well, and there's a lot of people, but I would say Nay, Ray Leno are probably the top two that come to mind that are still active on the app that I've been rocking with since day one. Kimmy Cakes, I've known her for a long time. Ashmar, obviously my birthday twin. Love her to death. I mean, how can you not love Ashmar? She's amazing.
That was pretty awesome. Bugs would like to know if you could speak to one person, dead or alive, for an hour, who would it be and why?
Ooh, um, gosh, I don't know. I'd have to come back to you on that one because there's so many good people. Alive, not so much, but if I had to go pick someone who is dead, ugh, honestly, probably Albert Einstein. I love that dude. Like, obviously
That,
he's one of the greatest minds of our time. Um, his quote is in my bio. It always has been since day one. That dude is just the stuff that he had seen, created, thought of, tried to prevent. I mean, just to sit there and pick his crazy brain would be awesome.
okay. I got that question, Lena, but I got one before. I want to ask another Clapper related question. Uh, those people you mentioned that you've known, for so long, Are those the creators on here that inspire you? And are there any others?
Um, I would say as far as me being inspired to do something, um, I'd say almost all the people that I interact with or have some sort of connection with have played a factor. When for those of you that don't know, I was part of the Brothers Corner first as a fan, and then eventually ended up taking over the show and ran for a little over a year with it. Um, Once I was done with that show, I was kind of obviously there were some issues there that kind of kept me from even wanting to do anything. But then in my heart of hearts, I felt like I still had a lot to say and a lot to bring to the table. But it was all of them in conversations where I would mention the fact that I was thinking about doing something again that were like, yes, yes, yes. So, and what's crazy to me is the fact that I run a men's mental health show. However, it was the ladies that really pushed me to do it. The men were like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Typical men fashion. Like, okay, buddy, cool. Let me
Just
know.
like
I'll be there. Whatever. But the women were the ones that were like, you need to do this. Like, we enjoyed listening to you. We enjoyed how you do it. We enjoyed how you made us feel like a part of it. And even some that had concerns, reasons why they had left the other show for whatever their reasons were. Um, even though they were like, hey, honestly, we probably won't be coming through and being a part of it. However, we do feel that you need to do something. So that was my biggest push to do something again. And then my final inspiring, besides Storm obviously pushing me to do it, she left it up. She's like, obviously, it's your choice. I'll support you either way, but I feel like you should do something. Probably one of my biggest final influences is a new creator on here, Elevated Bliss. I listen to his show every morning, his whole crew. He's got a whole crew that he does stuff with. You know, he made a statement one day where he said, I don't care if it's one person in the room or no people in the room. I'm going to sit up here and talk my shit regardless.
right
And I
on.
was like, damn, I got to respect that. You know what I mean? Because I tried to do a show in between. I did like 3 episodes, and the fourth episode, I was on here for over an hour, and nobody came through. Like nobody. The bots did, but that was it. And that was my final discouraging. Without even knowing that last little shove over the edge.
Well, I'm glad that he did. I'm going to come back to Brothers Corner and your men's mental health show, but I'm going to get Lena's question in first. And she says, if you could take a dream vacation with your family, where would you go?
you know, if I could go anywhere, it's going to be Montana. That's just me. Go spend time in a big freaking cabin in Montana. Um, but I don't know that the kids are coming with me. It's hard to appease 6 different opinions. But obviously, they'd probably want to go to some beach resort somewhere. So if I had to go that route, I'm gonna say Fiji. Fiji would probably be my spot.
Right on. Welcome in, JQ. It's good to see you. Um, so give us a little bit of rundown on how you came to actually running Brothers Corner. Tell us a little bit what it was about. I remember it. I sat in on some of the radios, but I really wasn't actively involved with that like I have been with your live for men's mental health.
Yeah, like I said, I was a fan. I was always there in a supportive role. I was not part of the inner circle. There were 6 guys part of the inner circle. Um, but I tried to support them any way I could, whether it was promotion or, just watching the bottom, making sure people, I mean, most of the people who are in here know that they've all been invited up by me at one point or another because the guys running the show didn't really have time to keep scrolling back and forth and make sure. So I was always like the doorman, if you will, and just always being there support. I think before I took over the show, we were at 100 and we were right at just over 100 episodes. I want to say it was like 102 episodes or something like that. Um, and I think I only ever missed 2 episodes ever, and it was unavoidable. And so then, one day, chocolate was kind of the main guy who ran it. He had some personal things going on in real life with his mom and stuff, and he was also kind of feeling like, it was just becoming a yes show. Everyone was just agreeing. So if everyone's just agreeing, then there's no conflict, and then there's no deeper discussion. That's just kind of how he was feeling, which I can I can understand, because even in my show, I kind of get that feeling sometimes. Um, and he was just done. Like, it just kind of, he started the show. We were about 30 minutes in, and he just dropped the bomb that this was the last episode of the Brothers Corner, and he was done. And he ended the show, and then we were all just kind of left there like, okay. And it had done so much for me, and I know for others, as far as, kind of in discussions with other men, realizing, I did have things that I needed to own. I did have things I needed to change. I did have things that I could be better at, both as a husband, a father, and as a man.
Right.
And so I didn't want to see that end, you know what I mean? Because I valued it so much, and I valued everybody that was a part of it. So I was like, fuck that. If Chocolate needs a break, because at that point it was really just him running it. All the other guys had kind of, left or whatever. And I said, if he needs a break, cool. I'm willing to step up and take the reins. There were some naysayers that didn't think it was possible. And I said, fuck that. At the end of the day, yeah, I'm not Chocolate Minds, but, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on how to run a show, and I'm going to do it. And whether you want to be a part of it or not, that's entirely, I left it up to everyone. If you want to be a
Right.
part of it, great. If you don't, great. Either way, I'm going to keep this thing going for as long as I can. And in the beginning, everyone was kind of on board, and I tried to simplify the process as far as getting ideas and opinions and thoughts um, going, and I tried to streamline that process as much as possible. And it just kind of slowly started lessening and lessening, and more guys started, stop coming. And I still managed to get roughly about 80 some episodes, which is just over a year, uh, under my belt. And then it all just kind of came to a head. And I had one episode where I was going through some personal life, real life shit with a person that I was seeing on the app, and it was all kind of unfolding. And I was coming in hot one day on my topic, and Chocolate just showed up at random along with this one person, and it all just kind of went south. And at that point, I kind of felt backdoored, if you will. And I was like, cool, like, I just did this to help y'all. I just did this because I was a fan. I didn't want to see something we all valued go away, because I know we all had a lot of time invested. But if I'm not, what I'm doing is not, appreciated, cool, man, say less. I'm out. And so I ended it at 100, and last one was 186 episodes. So
Um,
yeah, that was, and it left a bad, I'll be honest with you, it left a bad taste in my mouth, because I did feel backdoored by quite a few people, uh, when all I was trying to do was help. And so, I was a little bit of a bitter bitch.
you know
But
what they say? No good deed goes unpunished.
that's true. That is very true. So, I was like, okay, cool, I'm done. Like, no problem, no worries.
So
And
Ronan is asking, has there been anyone that you've tried to help, but they were so deep in their depression that there was nothing you could do and you lost them?
I mean, yeah, not so much on the app, but in personal life. I mean, well, like, we just currently on my new show, we're going through suicide, and we're kind of dismantling suicide, which is a very, touchy subject. It's very taboo, if you will, still. So hold on a minute. Let me close this door because I got little ones.
No problem, bro.
But yeah, so, my one of my oldest friends, his name's Robbie. Robbie was a Marine. Um, Robbie wasn't everybody's cup of tea because he was very rough around the edges, but he was definitely a man's man. Um, he was one of the most invincible invincible dudes I ever thought. Like I've seen that dude fight 9 guys and walk away. You know what I mean? And drop all 9 of them and stand his
Right.
ground. You know what I mean? So like, as far as surviving the world, never ever did I ever have a thought of Robbie being the guy that could be broken. Um, but unfortunately, we lost him. It's coming up on 2 years, but we lost him to suicide. And like I said, I lived less than 2 miles away from him. I could have been there that quick if he had just made the phone call, and but he didn't. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. So that right there was one of my biggest pushes to try to even think about doing something again. Because it's like, okay, we know the number of how many we lose per day. We now know the number of how many guys attempt it, but what we don't know is the number of the ones that even think about it. And just based off the numbers we do know, we can come up to a rough estimate that we're in the 20 of millions of people. It's just
Right.
insanity. So
Now,
that's my,
I know you've done some studying on this. Um, how much of an epidemic would you say that suicide among men is?
I'd say it's a pandemic. I'd say that is just so widespread that it literally makes just about anything else look minuscule, in my opinion.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
been experience as well, Katie, that some of what you perceive as the strongest people out there will find that their most unbeatable foe, so to speak,
Is
is
themselves.
right
Yep.
there. Absolutely.
Yep.
Um, what are some of the challenges you personally have faced in having and keeping good mental health?
You know, because I've had my own struggles. I've had a very hard life growing up, and even into my adult years, it's always been a fight. I've got big shoulders. I've carried a lot of weight. Uh, for me, obviously, my kids are in the forefront more than anything else. My kids have kept me going. The fact that I couldn't leave them unattended because I knew at a young age I wanted to be a father. So for them, they're my biggest strength in keeping fighting the fight. Um, After that, it's my family. I have a very, very rock solid family on my mother's side. We are still very much a tight group. We are still very much a Christian based family that believes in God, and we support each other.
Uh,
And so that's my second strongest ally. After that, just I'm an only, even though I have siblings, they're half siblings. So I'm an only child as far as my mother's concerned. I've been my own best friend since birth. So I'm very comfortable at talking to myself up here, and working through whatever I've got going, right, wrong, indifferent, good or bad. I'm very well adapted at talking to myself. So I think that's my third biggest strength as far as making it through.
okay. Carrie 17 wants to know, how do you handle your emotions after knowing someone who has given up their battle?
Well, I mean, just like Robbie, it took me, I've buried so many friends at this point that it's hard for me to make an immediate like contact. So with his brother Chris, who technically is my closer friend of the two brothers, it took me a couple days to reach out to him. One, because I wanted him to have his own time to process what had happened, but then, even for myself, like holy, because I was in shock. I was in shock that it happened. Like for real. Um, but yeah, like I think having the fact that I've dealt with so much death in my life that it's a little easier for me to come with grips around it, regard regardless of the reason. So, um, but I'm also a firm believer that no energy is gone. It's just it's taken from this vessel and it's been put somewhere else. And it's only a matter of time before you'll meet that energy again. So I have full confidence in the fact that at one day, at some point in time, I'm gonna meet Robbie's energy again. Whether
Absolutely. And welcome in, Steve, LUFC official. Brother, you're one of my favorite people on here, and it's good to see you. Tim, LD Sweets wants to know, why do you think the hardest thing for men is to get help, and why?
Well, multitude of reasons, LD. The main one is just that we're not programmed that way. We're not programmed to reach out. We're programmed to be strong, independent, suck it up, man up, quit being a little bitch. So that's the number one reason why we don't. After that, I feel that the programming's so ingrained that we believe it so wholeheartedly that we don't know where to begin. Even if we've come to the realization that we've been programmed, we don't know where to begin because there's nothing for us. There's no hotlines that we can really call. I mean, yeah, there's your general suicide hotline, there's your general abuse hotlines, but there's nothing specifically. Nowadays, it's getting better. I will say it's getting better. But for the longest majority of the time, there has been no outlets for men. Um, how many times have you driven down the road and seen a women's shelter or women's abuse counselor or women's this or women's that versus how many times you drive down the road see a men's anything other than a men's you know sports or men's this or men's that as far as extracurricular activities. There's nothing for men's failures or men's needs or men's mental health. There's nothing. So that's the biggest difference.
Like Lena says, we were discussing that before the interview, before you actually got here. Um, and you're right. Now, I will tell you, because I am a generation, at least one generation before you, it is getting better, but it's getting better slowly.
Very slowly. Too slow.
And I am personally thankful to have someone like you that's on Clapper and putting this out in everybody's face, making it something that we do have to talk about. And that's why I much appreciate being a part of your men's mental health show every week.
Yeah.
So before I get that, yeah, Mystic Rose, was it Mystic Rose Adventures? Ask, what's your favorite season and why?
Mm, I probably would say I like fall, that late summer, like this time of year, late summer to early winter. It's, the colors and the cooling down and, just all the festivities that surround that, the campfires and Halloween's my favorite holiday and, all that stuff, the preparation for Thanksgiving and Christmas right around the corner. So definitely that's my favorite time of year. I mean, I love spring when you see the new life starting and it's really pretty, but there's nothing like the fall colors.
All
Other
right.
than pumpkin spice. They can get rid of pumpkin spice. I'm just saying. I'm so tired of pumpkin spice.
That's all right. The Bug 70 wants to know, what would you tell someone to do to help release past baggage that would weigh someone down?
Talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. You can't talk about it enough. And if you find people in your circle that don't want to hear it, then find someone who will listen to you. Keep trying, keep fighting to find someone that'll help you, listen, help you maybe even shed off some of that baggage. I can speak from personal experience. When my marriage was ending, I was in a rough spot because I was a married for life guy. I took my vows very seriously. Till death do us part meant something. Sickness and health meant something. For rich or for poor meant something. And I was really struggling with the fact that I know on this hand that this is toxic. I need to get the fuck out of it. It's not doing me any good. It's not doing my kids any good. But on this hand, my values and my beliefs say, hey, you need to fight the good fight. You need to stay in it. You need to try, this too shall pass. All those little things that I've not only had programmed into me, but I've also programmed myself with that you need to stay there and you need to, this is just a bump in the road. But
Right.
uh, and then of course all the baggage of, if once I'm divorced or whatever, now I'm a middle-aged man with 3 daughters. Who the fuck is going to want me? You know what I mean? I bring nothing to the table as far as what a traditional man is supposed to bring. I bring baggage, I bring issues, I bring drama. So chances are I'm going to be alone for the rest of my days. So what it was able to what was able to free me of that feeling was the fact that I was in the brothers quarter and people that don't know me per se, but know me enough to say, holy shit, you're a rock. Not many dudes can step up and raise not only 3 kids, but 3 daughters as well as additional kids, because my kids had friends that had broken homes, and my house was the safe haven. So at one point, there could be 10, 12 teenagers in my house that are all struggling in their daily lives, but are coming here because it's a safe place. They know they're going to get a meal. They know they can spend the night if they want to and be safe. They know they're going to be protected. So, having virtual strangers telling me that I'm such a good person for being rock solid in that aspect was able to me be able to shed some of that baggage of feeling less than. So
Right
talk,
on.
talk, talk. You can't, if you're struggling, you can't talk enough about it, period.
Absolutely right. So, Country Girl Princess Martha wants to know, do you think there need to be more men that step up and mentor, especially professionally?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, just we had just did the 22nd episode of the real. Yeah. So the question being, do I think we need more men to step up? Absolutely. We can't, we're so far behind the eight ball as far as the numbers go. We are playing a very dangerous game of catch up. And I mean, I honestly feel if you were to have 100,000 guys tomorrow step up and say, "Hey, I'm going to be a men's mental health counselor and get certified or whatever." Let's just say it was a fairly simple process, and within 90 days they could be certified counselors. We're still not enough. We still haven't even made a dent in the numbers, because if the number of the men who are even just thinking about it is in the 20 of millions, that's like one. That's not even 1%. So you literally need 2 million guys to stand up to even be at 10%. So it's not enough, but we need it. Yes, we need
We
more
need,
and more men.
we need those numbers and more men to step up because going in, you're fighting the stigma of other men looking down on you because you want to talk about your problems. But history has shown us very well that keeping it all balled up inside and not getting it out and not getting help with whatever the issue is, that leads to things like suicide and homicide too.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just them killing themselves; it's killing other people. It's even if they don't even go to that far, it's abuse. It's so many variables that play into that across the board.
Selena wants to know, what can a woman or partner do to help?
It's such a tough nut to crack, even for me as a guy. Talk for prime example, I have coworkers, right, that I talk to about this. They all know that I do this. I have one in particular that's a very angry elf. He's a good dude, but he harbors a lot of shit from his childhood with his father, who was a very mean, abusive dude. And in turn, it affects him even now in his daily life. And he's a very angry elf. He gets flustered very easy, loses his shit very easily. And I've tried to crack the nut, and I still chip away every now and again. I just bring up, oh yeah, last night in my show we talked about this, and I try to do it just little things to get him talking. Um, I don't know him well enough to really hold him accountable per se yet, but I take my opportunities when I get them to drop a little nugget, boop, in his plate to hopefully one day where. But he's even come to me, hey, I got this guy I know, he's really struggling. Can he call you? And I said, yeah, give him my number, no problem. Have him call me. I don't care. The guy never did reach out to me, and I asked him, oh, he's good, he's back, he's back doing so. It never came to fruition, but I was absolutely like, yeah, I'm here, I'm available. And like I was going to say, we're in episode 22 that we've been doing this. And we've been fortunate, Tank, as you know, to have a couple younger guys come through that have been struggling and struggling. One in particular struggling very hard. And as
Right.
far as I know, because he never reached out to me personally, so I don't have his number to check. But as far as we know, he's now in rehab and hopefully on the right path to recovery. We're hopeful of that until we see him again. I haven't seen him on the app at all because I've been looking for him, but I haven't seen him. He hasn't posted anything. So as far as I know, he's in his recovery, because the last time we heard, that's what he was planning on doing. He had already at least enrolled as best we understood. So we're
Well,
hopeful for that
if he's actually doing that, that's definitely a step in the right direction. And when
for
I
sure.
know who you're about, and he came in, and it was obvious to everybody he was desperate to get some help and get
Yeah,
guidance. And that's something you, because you are a little older, but you're still a younger man than me, but something that you have to do, and that is offer guidance to the younger guys that are struggling and to let them know, and especially coming out of my generation, because I'm a baby boomer, let them know that the things that like what I was taught, you don't show your emotions, boys don't cry,
Yep.
man up, all bullshit. Okay.
It's all bullshit.
It's okay to show emotions. Men cry, boys cry. It's part of being a human being, and they got to know it's okay to do that. So so you can remove the stigma from it. So they know it's okay to express the emotions that a lot of us have been taught for years and years and years to bottle up, because
Well,
bottling
I
it
mean,
up helps.
it's kind of a double-edged sword, really, because there's, like I always tell people, like with the whole anti-bullying and all that kind of thing. Yes, anti-bullying is a great cause. I can get behind it to a degree. However, it's hard for me to completely be anti-bullying in the sense that bullies made me. Had I
Yeah.
not had that struggle as a young little dude to now that I'm a big guy to be able to be it built the protector that's in me because I was the victim for so long that now I'm the scales have went the other way. But without all that up here for so long, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be the guy that's to stand up. I wouldn't be the guy to step forward. You know what I mean? So, in the same thing with the programming, yes, is it wrong? Yes, is it bullshit? Yes, is it not okay for us to not feel like we can express our emotions? Sure. But there's a part of me too that's like, at the same time, that programming is what built the man that I am to a degree. So it's a very double-edged sword in a lot of cases.
And I get that. And part of the reasons it helped build you to who you are is because you have that strength that it took that treatment to bring out of you, for you to
Hmm.
realize that was part of who you are. You are that strong guy that can take that and then turn it to something positive. But for every guy like you out there, there's a guy
There's too many that aren't.
that get driven down that road to that ends up with them taking their own.
It's a very dangerous balance for sure.
Absolutely.
But to
Um,
also answer to full, because I don't feel like I fully answered Carrie's question. If you are with a partner, let's say, or you have a family member, let's say, that is potentially struggling, just keep poking, keep asking, stay on top of it. That's where I made the mistake with Robbie, is that I knew he was struggling. I knew he was going through some shit, but in my mind, he was always kind of laughing and joking and seemed like things were good. And, he had little moments, little quirks. And I just kind of was like, well, he'll figure it out, because I wasn't obviously fully trained at understanding the signals. You know what I mean? So if you even if you think you're way off balance, doesn't hurt to keep digging, keep pushing, keep prodding, especially if you really care about that person. And one thing I will say, there's a video that I didn't show during last week that I saved it for next week, but there's a video that shows two guys that are friends, obviously, or maybe brothers, doesn't really specify, that are going to baseball or soccer games. And the one guy is woohoo, and the other guy is just kind of like, yeah. And so the whole time, it's a compilation of a lot of different games, and the whole time you're thinking the guy that's just kind of sitting there is the guy who's not good, just based on everyone around him's cheering, laughing, having a good time, drinking beers, and he's just kind of like meh. And unfortunately, it's not. It's the guy who's up and cheering and laughing and joking. And, yeah, come on, buddy. If you have someone like that in your life that is always the life of the party, the jokester, the doesn't seem like anything's ever wrong, that's the 99.9% of the guy that you need to be really concerned about.
because you don't see what that guy's doing when he's by himself, and a lot of the
Hmm.
times he's by himself. So I get that. Paul
That's
wants to know
that's what's good.
who gave you the best advice in your life.
You know, that's a tough question because I didn't get a lot of advice in my life, especially growing up. Even though I had seven uncles that were phenomenal men, they didn't offer a lot of life advice. They just offered a lot of life lessons. How to survival lessons. They didn't really offer advice. But if I had to say, um, Man, I don't know. Probably Papa Bear, who's no longer with us. He was a Clapper OG. We lost him a few years back. Wasn't super close to him, but he always made it a point to be in the brothers' corner. He would pop up into everybody, kind of like you, Tank. He would pop into everybody's shit.
You
Um,
talking about a Bear 440? Big guy, huge guy.
yeah, we lost him about 3 years ago.
We lost him the day I got out of the hospital after my stroke. He was one of my best friends on here.
Yeah. Um, Papa
Shady,
Bear.
he was a
Go
guy
ahead.
that when, because he was always there for everybody. If you knew him, you knew that.
Yeah.
But when he would struggle, then he would reach out to me. And when I found out he passed away the day I got out of the hospital, it broke my heart.
Yeah. Um, Papa Bear and I weren't super close, but he was always there. And I can't even say that the advice was directly given to me, but I was in the room when it was shared. And what he said was, one thing I've learned after all these years is make memories. He goes, all this other bullshit, all this material, because, I was still very much struggling in the, I got to go to work. I got to go to work, 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 make as much money as I can. I was, still in that tunnel of, I'm not doing enough and to succeed. And he said, make memories. That's what matters the most. That's the only thing that matters is making memories with your loved ones, your family. All that other shit doesn't matter. And I was like, damn, he's right. Like, you
And
know,
bugs and take photos too, because
yeah.
you know that photos are part of the legacy that we leave children and grandchildren. I got a few questions. I did go through your content. So there's a couple of things I got from your content I want to ask you. First question: what makes you and Storm a power couple?
Um, well, I mean, obviously she's extremely well loved on this app and off the app. Um, she's one of the kindest souls I've ever met. And I think the combination of us two, like we're so yin and yang with each other. You know what I mean? In the few years that we've been together, we've really only ever had two or three disagreements, and it's basically just been about the kids. Realistically, it really hasn't been anything that's other than that. So, and that's just a learning process of how blending two families, especially all females together, is a very delicate balance. But I feel that the fact that she's so well loved and supported, and and I am as well. Like there's just so many people that are like, oh, Shady, they. I'm not at the forefront of anyone's life, but at the same time, when I pop in, everyone's like, yo, what's up? You know what I mean? So that right there lets you know that you're well liked, you're well received, well respected. And that just warms my heart because,
They really absolutely are. I look forward to your live every week. I know I haven't made it every week, and I always reach out and let you know I'm sorry I missed it because it's a phenomenal live. I love the people. The women in there are absolutely great.
yes,
Um,
couldn't do it
and
without them.
I am absolutely privileged just to be a part of it. Um, just to prove to you, I have gone through your content pretty good. Tell me about the wig exchange.
Oh, so her and I saw a video on one of the other app. I think it was Instagram. Anyways, a group of family members had gotten together and done a wig exchange. And like I said, my family's very tight knit. I have a lot of cousins, and we, excuse me, about a year or so ago, we started a cousins group chat. And so we're always trying to come up with times to meet, and we usually play games or just go out to eat, whatever we end up doing, right? And then I was like, yo, I don't care what it takes, but we got to do this. And I sent the video. And of course, all my girl cousins were like, fuck yes. And I only have a couple male cousins. And so we went bowling, and we all got wigs and showed up and put them on. So, and we plan to continue to do that further. We've been trying to work out going to Olive Garden wearing the wigs. We've also done where we've talked about doing the blow up Halloween costumes of the different animals, Tyrannosaurus Rex, whatever, doing something along those lines. So, we're just trying to keep keep the family together, keep it going, keep it fresh. We're all getting older now, and medical issues are starting to pop up for everybody. So, we're just trying to keep that close knit, and hopefully our kids see us doing it, because unfortunately our kids aren't as close as we are, but it's a
Right.
different generation. So hopefully by them seeing us do that now, it will fuel them later down the road to do the same thing.
I love the idea of it, to be honest with you.
It's great. It was so much fun. Even my couple cousins that were like, I ain't wearing that shit. I was like, put it on.
And I have a lot of cousins, so that would be a really good thing. I'll have to
Oh,
bring that up.
it's so much fun.
All right. One other thing I want to bring up from your content that'll make you smile as soon as I say the words come out of my mouth. Dumbass of the day.
I didn't hear that. Hold on. What'd you say?
Dumbass of the day. How did that
Oh,
get started?
honestly, I don't really even know. I think because I'm a scroller, I scroll the FYP, I scroll the lives. That's how I find new people. I've always felt like kind of a bit of an ambassador on this app to a degree, unofficially. I always try to find new people and try to find the good ones in the sea of nonsense that's on the other side of the app, as we all know. That's how I found several people, and I love fail videos. I mean, I used to watch Fail Army religiously. I love a good headshot. It brings me such joy. I feel bad for the person that it happens to, but it brings me joy. And so yeah, I just started, and I've always kind of like, especially in the early days, I was kind of known as the unofficial clapback king, because if you go way back down my list, it's almost all clapbacks.
Yeah,
Um, and so, again, just kind of showing love and showing support, especially for newer creators that are just starting. I want to clap them back. And so, yeah, dumbass, especially when it's situations that could be avoided.
I
Dumbass.
will tell you, I will tell you, Shady. I saw a lot of your dumbass of the day videos. I loved them. I got a kick out of them.
Oh yeah, they're
Uh,
all good.
so Simply Nay says, when you release tidbits of wisdom, are you willing and able to receive gems from others as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably wouldn't have been receptive in my old self, because I just felt like, you know, I've survived this long, and I still have that mindset to a degree. I've survived this long on my own instincts. But I realize, especially after the corner, that, you know, wisdom and experiences from others can help you avoid some really bad decisions, bad paths. And I've always been a firm believer that someone, regardless of age, sex, gender, race, whatever, it doesn't matter, they can teach you something. And if you aren't open to that teaching, then you are not doing what you need to be doing. Um, it's okay to stay in your safe space. It's okay to, stay in your little shell of what, to a degree, but that's not going to get you anywhere in this life. And you'll probably end up finding yourself very alone and very resentful for a life wasted, in my opinion.
Uh,
So, you know, we had a couple young bucks that were working. They're one's 19, one's 20. They were working with us in construction. They don't know their ass from a hole in the ground as far as construction goes. But, if they had an opinion on something or a thought of how to do something a little bit better, hey, run it by me. Let me see what you got. And, worst case scenario, we'll try it. If it don't work, it don't work. So,
Absolutely.
I'm always willing to listen to something that somebody has as far as advice goes.
I'll tell you what I used to tell guys when I was in the Navy. The day you feel like you can't learn from someone else, take your life, because you're done. I'm 63 years old. I learned from Lizzie, who's 11, almost every day.
Yeah.
I, I love learning new things, and I will never stop learning. So I really, your answer for that was really well done. Now I
Yeah.
have to add, you've got a lot of content also at car shows. So what is the ideal Tim Shady dream car?
Oh, 63 Impala SS with a 409 and a 4-speed, my friend. That is my dream car. But I am a car guy through and through. I love all types, shapes, sizes, colors, ages, models, you name it. I am horrible at remembering names of movies and actors and music and song lyrics. I don't remember half that shit. But I remember cars like it's the back of my fucking hand. And I've been that way since I was a little kid. It's
Would you?
very rare that you can stump me with a car question or a type of. If I see something going down the road, it's very rare you can stump me.
Oh, I gathered that just going through your content. Would you believe I've already owned my dream car,
Oh, really?
and it,
No, no kidding.
and it was my very first car. I was 19 when I got it. 1970 Chevelle with 302,
Yep.
and then
Good
my
car.
sister. I gave it to my sister when I joined the Navy, which was a mistake because she traded it in for a Chevette. I was so mad. Told her if I told her, I said, if I knew you wanted a car, buy a car, I would have sent you the down payment.
Yeah. Uh, for a shit vet.
I just thought I was a good thing having the car in the family because when I was, at that time, I didn't need a car right away. My intention was to get it, after I got done with boot camp and school and all that, come back, get the car, and you
Yeah.
know, so much for that. But um, at this point, I would like to take a minute, Shady. We got about 10 or so minutes left, and announce that next week, and I'm encouraging everybody right now in this live that hears my voice, if you consider me a friend, please be here next week when Dirty's Midget, who is Little Val, and Gangsta Granny, who is Big Val, are going to team up to interview Big Tank.
No. Okay.
And just
Flipping
like
the
that,
script.
it will be interactive. So if you're here and you got a question you want to hear me answer, next week is a great opportunity for that. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate
And I
it.
and I want to encourage you all as well. If you don't know that Wednesdays at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, we have the real um, men's mental health show. Don't miss out. I mean, even if you can just pop in for a little bit, we start. Technically, we start at 8 o'clock. That's when the show actually kicks off. We do that little half an hour for a little check-in meet and greet. And we run late, so don't feel bad if you. Oh well, it's 9:30. They're probably done. Oh no, it's rare that we end before 10 o'clock. Tank will tell you. Tank bows out. He's like, I gotta go.
I had a few of those that ran upwards of midnight. So yeah, trust me. Even if you're late, no matter what time you get there, it's well worth being there.
Yeah,
Topic he brings up is topics that need to be discussed. Um, we do encourage, and we do have people of varying ages. I'm usually among the oldest, me and Papa Joe. Um,
yep,
but we've had guys in their 20s, a lot of guys in 30s and 40s, and all those different perspectives are absolutely necessary if we're going to get to a place where men's mental health is something that's not in a crisis, at a crisis level. Because as much as we want to take care of the women, we need to take care of the men too. Men's mental health is every bit as important.
yep. And I will say just a little disclaimer. Um, they're hot button topics 9 times out of 10. So Storm will tell you she's my secretary. She monitors the comments. She runs that for me. And there's a couple other ladies that come in, Leanne and a couple others that also take her place if she's not able. It is a safe space for men. So what I can tell you is you may hear something because I had this with a Clapper OG that I considered kind of a friend. She got all butthurt. She came in, she hadn't really been on the app for a while. She came in, heard one of the guys expressing his opinion, got butthurt in the comments. She was about that close to getting booted, but then proceeded to go ahead and excuse herself and then proceeded to message me. I can't believe you were up there agreeing with blah, 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 and made some, comment about the fact that he was expressing his opinion. And I simply said, look, it's a men's safe space. They can say whether I agree with it or not. They get the right to say whatever they need to say. And if you feel some type of way, you need to excuse yourself because I have to give them that opportunity. Short of
And
something that is unacceptable, I'm going to allow them to speak their truth. And I respect them for that, for because that's the whole point of it, is to get men to be able to speak their truth. And to get men to open up about anything is like pulling fucking teeth. Okay, it's not an easy process. So back the fuck up, calm down, and
I can
let it
tell you
be.
that participates in this on a regular basis. Tim doesn't filter anybody. He doesn't filter the guys that come. He doesn't filter the women that are there. Everybody's opinion is valid and important to be heard, whether you agree with it or not. You know,
Yep.
understanding that fact is one of the important ways to knock down barriers and actually have real dialogue and actually get problems solved. And I absolutely applaud Tim for the way he runs that show. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I will say this too, even if I have somebody that's going to say something that they feel is their truth and their belief, and I may not agree with it, I'm going to allow them to get that on the table because if I don't, A, I don't know how they truly think and are operating, so then I can then navigate waters to try to make a dent and change that perspective. But if I don't even know what their perspective is, then how could I even navigate those waters? So that's why for me, it's very important to make sure I know how they truly feel to where then I can offer a different perspective. Um, and also, I will say, there's times we did fatherhood and we did um, just big dick energy and different, things that were hot button topics. And sometimes it's going to feel like for the women that it's a bit of a woman bashing session. However, I'm very much about balance. I'm very much on the yin and yang. So I always try to bring everything full circle. So we did an episode on motherhood. We did an episode on power of the pussy. We did things to show the light for the women's side as well. Most of my videos, I try to have an equal balance of women's perspective and men's perspective on whatever the topic is. Sometimes it's not able to because there's not a lot of women's perspective or there's not a lot of men's perspective, but I always try to find the balance. And I always allow the ladies to come up. We usually go a solid 2 hours with the men only. Women are in the comments, but at some point, we always allow you to come up and either voice your opinion, have a suggestion, whatever the case may be. The only thing I'm not going to allow is someone to make someone else feel less than or bad for their opinion or their viewpoint. Because one of the conversations I had with an OG on here, when I asked her when I took over the corner, I said, "Hey, would you be willing to come back?" And she said, "Honestly, no, because I felt very disrespected. I felt like my opinion didn't matter, and I was felt made to feel bad about my opinion, but it's my belief and my opinion." And I said, "Well, if you come back, I guarantee you I will not allow that to happen because I won't." And she came back a few times, but she just ultimately decided it wasn't for her, which I totally respect. At least I knew where she stood and why she stood on her square. And so it was but in that conversation and that realization that's how she felt, it was very important for me moving forward to know that I have to continue that. I'm not going to allow it. I'm not going to allow you to feel some type of way about something someone said and make them feel bad for it, right, wrong, or indifferent. So because I have to protect that space. And if that means removing somebody, blocking somebody, whatever the case is, obviously blocking for me is going to be the very last straw. Because to this day, after almost 5 years on this app, I don't have anybody blocked. I have not blocked a single fucking person. So I'm not going to start now. I'm going to have a conversation with you if that allows. If you're adult enough to have one, we're going to have a conversation about what we had going on. But chances are I'm not going to block you because I'm very adamant on if I don't mess with you or I don't like who you are or what you do or how you do it, I'm still going to keep tabs on what you're doing, what you're talking about, and how you're navigating because you're not going to catch me on the backside. It's not going to happen.
And I like to mention Nay's comment. She said there's a difference between hearing what someone says, and are they actually listening? And she's absolutely right. That's a good
Absolutely.
way. It's a good way to find out if they're actually listening. Is
Hmm.
hearing what they respond to what is being said. Because some people, they'll hear a word or two that's a trigger for them, and the rest of it doesn't matter what was being said. They just focus on that trigger word and they go off on that.
Well,
Um,
even my own sister who doesn't do social media, I invited her. She showed up a couple episodes ago, and unfortunately for her, that second episode was a bit of a tough one for the ladies because it was about women's abuse of men, basically, and she didn't last very long because she was triggered. But she removed herself from the live, and she messaged me like, said, "Hey, that one was a bit rough for me. I'm still pretty raw in some of these things you guys were talking about. I'm not ready to go down that road." I said, "Hey, cool. I respect that. I appreciate you showing up. Please feel free to come back on another time." But that's what I'm looking for, is someone who's adult enough to excuse themselves if they're feeling some type of way, instead of, because I don't want you to show your ass and make some stupid comment or go off the hinges. I don't want that for you, regardless of whether I agree with you or not.
Absolutely. Well, and you've heard enough of my story to know that show was a big one for me, simply because of what I've been through. But that's all I'll say about it. Tim, I could do this for another hour or two, and I've still got a lot of questions I didn't get to.
Hey, part two, baby, part two.
Now, and would you be willing to come back?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's how we're going to end this. I offer my guests now every week an opportunity to do a shout out. So this is your opportunity. It can be whatever you want.
Man, shout out to all y'all. You know what I mean? Like, you know who you are if you've played an important part in my life on this app. Um, Many of you know my struggles, you know my story. Many of you know and have witnessed me go through a relationship on this app with someone from another country for 2 years, and watch me get crushed by that relationship and rebound with that to now be fortunate to be blessed with someone else on this app that is just an amazing human being in Storm. Um, so shout out to y'all, man. Just always being there, ready to listen, or ready to hear me, or ready just to, even if you don't know, you're helping me get through it. you know I appreciate you. You know who you are, you know who's close to me. um Shout out to all y'all that are relatively new. You've only been on here a year or two or less. Shout out to y'all for sticking through, because it's not everybody's cup of tea, especially with this being a two-sided app, as we always say. um, Shout out to y'all for sticking with it, because when people ask me about Clapper, I have to obviously give the obvious disclaimer that it's two sides and blah blah blah. But I always say the thing for me that makes this special is the fact that it's like a family. We've buried people, we've married people, we've had babies on this app, we've watched kids grow up, we've been in the trenches through some shit, we've pulled people out of dark times and dark places. um, and if it was just being in a radio for a minute or being on a live for a minute to talk through it, we've covered so much ground, especially when it comes to the men's mental health, and just the mental health of all of us, because we're all fucked up. I don't care who you are, what you got going on. We all have moments where we're fucked up and we're struggling, and we've somehow managed, right, wrong, or indifferent, good times, bad times, beef, no beef, drama, no drama. It's been a roller coaster of a ride, but you know what? It's the one ride that I'll actually ride because I enjoy every minute of it.
And I got to tell you, after going through a lot of your older content, the Chin Whiskers is a good call.
Yeah, because
Also,
I say, you see, there's me with full head of hair and big beard. There's me with none. There's me.
I want to shout out first and foremost, Fear the Reaper, Paul, my friend, the guy that does screen recording every week and makes it possible to put these interviews on my YouTube channel every Wednesday. And by the way, noon on Wednesday, your interview will be live on my YouTube channel.
Oh, sweet.
And I will give you a reminder message. It may be a little bit after it's posted, but I will let you know that it's there and viewable. I
Oh, yeah.
encourage you, your friends, family, whoever you want to see it, to
Well,
do that.
that's my next goal with the reel. I wanted to take the Brothers Corner there because I felt so strongly about it and believed in it so much, but I really want the reel to become multi-platform shared. My long-term goal would be that it's literally podcasted, broadcasted, whatever, across all platforms simultaneously. That's my long-term goal with it, and we'll see if we get there. You never know, but that's
So
that's
just
where I that's where
that
I want to
happened,
go.
and I'm with you all the way on it. Also, want to shout out my mods. They keep this thing flowing. They keep the for want of a better phrase, they keep the riffraff out, and they keep. This is an interactive interview. We don't want people coming in and offering one-on-ones for a nickel.
Yeah.
So my appreciation to the mods, which also includes Paul. He's I really couldn't get this done without Paul. And finally, got to do a shout out right back to you, Tim, because you inspire me with being a part of your show, the real. I become kind of self-reflective, because like you said, we've all made mistakes, and it opens my eye. It's helping me to open my eyes about who and what I am, and try to be a better man, moving forward. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, we've all got a pile of dirt. I don't care if it's a speck or if it's a mountain. We've all got a pile of dirt behind us. No one in this world is perfect. No one's without sin or without dirt. So, just own your shit. Try to be better. Apologize for your mistakes if you're able to, and man, just give yourself some grace. If I had to leave any us with anything, just give yourself some grace. I think that's
Storm,
honestly is what's missing the most from this world is a little bit of grace.
no, Donnie, you're the kind of riffraff we like having around. No worries.
And I was gonna say one last thing for me. If you guys want to catch a lighter side of me, definitely check us out on Friday nights. There's no set time, but it's usually in the evenings, usually somewhere around 8, 9 o'clock. We do the fuck around and find out on a Friday with Alexa. I know that's a lot, but it just started off as something we were just sitting around listening to music, and now it's just turned into a little bit of a game that we play. The point system's so ridiculous that anybody can win at any moment, and that one runs late. If we are on, it runs late. Like two, we were up till 2 in the morning last Friday. So if you ain't got
You,
nothing going on a Friday night, look out for that.
you know why I miss that live every week?
It's too late.
No, I go live at 7 o'clock. I hang out with
Oh,
Big Tank, and that live has been known to go 5 or 6 or 7 hours.
yeah. So it's always a good time. It's all about just finding. It ain't even so much about the game itself. It's about just finding good new music that we didn't know existed, and it literally just spawned from me reading someone's comment and putting it into Alexa and seeing if it played. So and it did, and from there it just kept growing and growing and growing, and now we fill up about 3 sheets of paper a night on new music that we found. So it's a good time.
Storm, I apologize for that. I should have modded you when you came in, and I didn't. But guys, it's been a wonderful interview that, like I say, could have gone another 2 or 3 hours. I appreciate everybody's participation in the interview every week. It's the interactivity of my interviews that I think make them so worthwhile. Tim, I appreciate you taking the time, and
Absolutely.
we'll talk about scheduling another interview in the future, because I definitely want to sit down and interview you again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize for being late. I was enthralled. I was watching the John Wayne Gacy documentary, and I was just like, "Bear." And then she called me. And was like, "You're late." I'm like, "Oh shit."
And I've seen that documentary, so it's all good, brother. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. And with that, y'all have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Love y'all.